Internet! It's time once again for Gaming with Max Von Puppet. That's me! Today, we're going to talk about a fun little European game called Alhambra. If you've ever watched Will Wheaton's tabletop show, and really, if you haven't, you're missing out on something totally awesome, you should go see it. You've seen him play this game. I'll post a link below so you can watch it again, or maybe for the first time, and see some actual play of this game. After you finish watching me, of course. Alhambra was designed in 2003 in Germany by Dirk Henn. It was published in Europe by Queen Games, and here in the US by a company called Uberplay, who I believe is no longer in business. The game is basically a tile-laying game where your goal is to build the best Alhambra castle ever. So, some historical context for the game. The Alhambra is a castle in Granada, Spain. It was first created as a fortress, but in the 14th century it was converted into a palace by a Muslim sultan. It was most known for its amazing art and architecture, as well as its gardens. In the game, you're a prominent builder who wants to demonstrate your skills by building the most amazing Alhambra ever. The game has some pretty complex rules, but once the game is in play, it all runs rather smoothly. Basically, the game works like this. Everyone starts with one of these fountain tiles that will be the center of your Alhambra. All the building tiles then go into a bag, and this marketplace goes into the middle of the table. 4 tiles are pulled from the bag and then placed on the market, like you see here, which then determine which type or color of money is used to buy the tile. You can see here there's 4 different colors of money. The number on the tile then determines how much of that type of money is needed to buy the tile. Each player gets some starting money, and the rest is shuffled into a deck. 4 money cards are then placed face up next to the market. Money cards look like this, and they come in a variety of different values. I think they range from 1 all the way up to 10. The rest of the money cards are then shuffled into a deck, and then you get these 2 scoring cards. These are then placed into the money card deck. There's some pretty specific rules on how to do that, but I'm not going to talk about them here. But basically what happens is during the game, as you're drawing money, eventually you'll hit these scoring cards. We'll get to scoring later, and then you can score points. There's a scoreboard that comes with the game, and as you play the game, you'll move your little pieces around the game based on the points that you score. Hopefully nobody scored so badly that they only got 4 points, but this is just an example. Or you can buy a tile from the marketplace with the money in your hand, and then position it onto your Alhambra. Or you can redesign your Alhambra by moving tiles around. Placing building tiles into your Alhambra has some pretty specific rules. For example, you have to place the tiles so that someone can walk from your fountain to every other place in your Alhambra, meaning that you can't put walls in between tiles unless there's a way around. Walls are these big, thick, black lines you can see right up here. Or, in the case of this one, there's 3 walls all the way around the outside of the tile. Another rule is that you can't place tiles upside down, or sideways, or in any way other than the way your tiles are previously set up. So, for example, if I had this tile, and I wanted to place it on my Alhambra, I couldn't move it this way so that I could make it so that the wall goes like that. That would be an illegal move. But I could place it down here, like that, or just even straight up like that. Needless to say, there's a lot of things you have to look at when building your Alhambra. When it comes to redesigning your Alhambra, you have to follow those same rules, but you also have a couple additional rules that apply when you're doing the redesigning phase. But basically, that phase allows you to move your tiles around to give you a better advantage if you see that you're stuck somewhere. There's lots of other rules involved in how to build your Alhambra that I'm not going to get into here, but needless to say, there's a lot of things you have to think about when placing your tiles down to make sure that you're not only following the rules, but giving yourself the best advantage of adding more tiles later. Now, on to scoring. There's 3 scoring stages. Each time one of these cards is drawn, you'll score points based on how many of a particular tile that you have. For example, in the first scoring round, based by this card here, you get 1 point per pavilion. That's blue cards. See, like up here we have a garden card and a mezzanine card tile. You have a garden tile and a mezzanine tile, right? If I had the most garden tiles, because that's how scoring is done. Scoring is done by having the most of a particular type of tile. So if I had the most garden tiles, I would get 5 points per garden tile. If I had the most mezzanine tiles, I would get 3 points per mezzanine tile. Now, as you can see, some tiles are worth more than others, and that also reflects how expensive the tiles can get. The garden tiles and the tower tiles are the most expensive tiles in the game. On the second scoring round, it not only does it by the person who has the most, but the person who has the second most. And then when you get to the third scoring round, which is based off of this card right here, this tile, rather, it's a game piece everybody gets in the beginning that you can use to store tile pieces you haven't put into your Alhambra yet. You can see the third round right here, which gives you first place, second place, and third place for how many tiles you have placed on your Alhambra. And then you score accordingly. And then it goes back to the scoring board, where you move your pieces around the board until you have, the number of points everybody has. At the end of the game, the player with the most points wins. As you can probably guess, the scoring rounds drive the strategy in the game. You have to decide if you want a lot of different building types in order to increase the number of scoring opportunities, or if you want to specialize in 1 or 2 building types and try and dominate in those scoring opportunities. And of course, you want to try and get that longest wall bonus. As you can see, the game is best played when with a group. You can play with up to 6 people. However, there's also some variant rules that allow you to play with only 2 if that's all that's available. Overall, I rate this game pretty highly. It's a lot of fun. The rules, while complex, are pretty easy to comprehend, and they make sense. It only takes a few rounds of gaming to get them if you're new. It's a great game to play with a small group of friends. It can get pretty competitive too, which can be fun in its own right. I've played games where people will buy tiles specifically to prevent the other players from getting them. There's some luck involved in the money draw, which can limit which tiles you can afford, but there's also a lot of strategy. I've won games by buying up lots of cheap tiles, both because that was all I was getting money-wise, and also because it allowed me to get lots of points with those tiles. And I've also lost games because I had no money when all the tiles were expensive. That said, though, I've yet to play a game that wasn't fun, even when I've lost, which, to be honest, was most of the time. Now, go watch Will Wheaton play and see the game for yourself. Or, better yet, and go buy a copy and play it, and experience it for yourself. Totally worth it. There's even some expansion sets out there to add to the fun. If you've played this game, let me know what your thoughts on it are in the comments below. If you want to offer me a suggestion on what game to talk about next, let me know. Also in the comments below. Until next time, keep playing games. Bye!